Bildungsroman. That's a weird way to start off, as most people probably don't know what a Bildungsroman is. A Bildungsroman is described as a novel about the moral and psychological growth of the main character. At least that's how the Merriam-Webster dictionary describes it. Several examples of a Bildungsroman includes Jane Eyre, To Kill a Mockingbird, David Copperfield, and lastly, Great Expectations. Now, the novel I have been forced to cover is Great Expectations, which I'm sure you can tell I did not care for. But I'm not here to discuss my opinion on the book. I'm here to cover why it's a Bildungsroman. So the main character is named Pip. How did he start out? In chapter 1, he's just a kid doing kid stuff, stuff like chilling in a graveyard, being beaten by his sister, who's now his adopted mother, lying, thieving, eventually becoming an indirect tool of murder. Hold on a second. He pretty much stays the same until chapter 8, when some girl named Estella, who he totally has a crush on, insults what is most sacred to a man: his boots. She insults his hands too, but the boots! The book says, "He calls the names Jack's this boy," said Estella with disdain, before our first game was out. "And what coarse hands he has, and what thick boots." I had never thought of being ashamed of my hands before, but I began to consider them a very indifferent pair. Her contempt for me was strong, that became infectious, and I caught it. The boots! I'm never going to drop that bit. I'm always going to make fun of this book for the boots. Anyway, after this, Pip really wants to be a gentleman, just so people can't make fun of his boots anymore. Also for Estella, but the boots. Okay. He doesn't get the chance to do that for a while, and ends up becoming Joe's apprentice at the forge. In chapter 17, he even expresses his disdain with his apprenticeship. This is said, rather explicitly in a quote, "Well then, understand once for all, that I never shall or can be comfortable, or anything but miserable. There, Biddy. Unless I can lead a very different sort of life from the life I lead now." Fortunately for Pip, he gets that change in life, as in chapter 18, he gets his fortune. Pip moves to London, where he meets Herbert. Well, He saw Herbert before. Pip just didn't know his name. Well, saw. They punched each other for a bit. Well, each other? I mean, it was pretty one-sided. Pip has no mercy for the weak. Pip lives in London for a bit, and eventually Joe comes to visit. But he doesn't treat Joe too well, and comes along rather snobbily. Very nice, Pip, very smooth. This quote pretty much sums it up. "If I could have kept him away by paying money, I certainly would have paid money." That sounds like something a politician would say. Something they'd get in trouble for in the news. Anyway, Pip also started to think that Miss Havisham was his benefactor. This, in turn, led him to believe that Estella was meant for him. Well, let me just say he didn't really have a problem with that idea. In chapter 39, Pip finds out who his mysterious benefactor is. Spoiler alert, it's not Miss Havisham. So it turns out it's actually a prisoner he helped out from chapter 1.
What a twist!
This revelation makes Pip a little bit more humble. There's even a little bit of a sick irony to it. The convict mentions he did it just because all the big, rich gentlemen and gentle ladies would always look down upon him. And he decided, you know what? I'm gonna make a gentleman just to prove that flippin' we can. By we, he's referring to all the lower class. And that's not a direct quote, I'm paraphrasing. Like a lot. Anyway, this ends up making Pip a bit better of a person, even going so far as to apologize to Miss Havisham, where he says, "Oh, Miss Havisham," said I can do it now. There have been many sore mistakes, and my life has been a blind and thankless one, and I want forgiveness and direction far too much to be bitter with you." After that, Miss Havisham catches on fire, so that's fun. Nice apology, good timing. At this stage of his life, Pip has matured, and he realizes that he's made mistakes. But this realization doesn't help him, as his life goes pretty downhill after this. Benefactor dies, he goes into debt, Estella marries off, Havisham dies, and Herbert moves away. So yeah, wonderful. Morals don't save you, kids. Anyway, Pip eventually goes east with Herbert, getting a new job. He eventually pays off his debt, and the book cuts to about 11 years later, where he's middle-aged and, well, probably depressed, honestly. Anyway, and when he comes back, he finds out he's an uncle. Wait, would he be an uncle? I mean, they're technically not his sister's kids. His sister's that it's his brother-in-law's. But, well, I mean, that make him an uncle-in-law? Is an uncle-in-law even a thing? Asking the serious questions here. So this is a Bildungsroman because it puts Pip through a whole bunch of somewhat traumatic experiences, actually. But it shows how he reacts to them, how he grows from them, and how eventually his choices haunt him. 0 out of 10, the new Thor was better.